Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi, Robert Martin and Nasser al-Mashni. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Palestine Remembered, Australia's only radio program that is totally dedicated to the Palestinian cause, and today's episode will be purely dedicated to the prisoners in Palestine on the occasion of the Palestinian Prisoners' Day. Stay with us and enjoy the show. Good morning, Nasser and Robert.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Every 17th of April, the Palestinians commemorate the prisoners in Israel's jails, Yom al-Asir al-Falastini, the Palestinians worldwide and the solidarity movements around the world. But this year, Prisoners' Day was special, Nasser.
It's special because Marwan Barghouti is leading a mass hunger strike against the injustice that is being perpetuated across onto Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. And this was initiated with an article that Marwan Barghouti had published in the New York Times, a very powerful article. It's been published a number of other times in the New York Times, but this time specifically calling out Israel for the crimes that it commits against its the Palestinians that it imprisons.
And for those who don't know Marwan Barghouti, Marwan is a leader in Fatah movement and also was nominated to be the Nobel Prize by several European parliaments and also former Nobel winners.
Yeah, the Interparliamentary Union, the European Parliament, many other institutions have called for his release and B nominated him for the campaign.
Marwan Barghouti is viewed by many as the Mandela of Palestine, the person who's able to lead.
He could unite everybody.
I would say you could unite most Palestinians, but Marwan is a representative of thousands of Palestinian prisoners behind bar, and we're going to talk, of course, about figures. But one thing I would start with that this year we are commemorating the 50th anniversary of the occupation of West Bank, Jerusalem and Gaza, and during the last 5 decades 800,000 Palestinians were imprisoned or detained by Israel. Mm-hmm. That's 40% of the male population of these occupied territories.
It beggars belief. You know, one of the challenges we're remembering the 50 years since Israel occupied East Jerusalem, the West Bank and Gaza, but the Israelis are celebrating it.
Of course.
You know, occupying another people and dehumanizing them is a cause for Israeli celebration. Anyway, let's coming back to Marwan Barghouti. He's had some articles published in the New York Times previously, but never as powerfully as this. And for our listeners, when they look at our podcast, we'll put a hyperlink to that. But if you search Marwan Barghouti in the New York Times, you'll find this article, and it's a really, really, really powerful article. And he speaks to the challenges he's facing, but also is advising the world to a mass hunger strike. And now we've got something of the order of 2,000 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons who are on an indefinite hunger strike.
Until their demands are met. And we're going to talk about their demands later.
We'll talk about their demands later. And just to be clear for our listeners, the demands aren't for release. The demands are, are much more civil in requirement. But, interestingly, from this article, I'm just going to take a couple of bits out, guys.
Please.
One of the paragraphs he speaks to, I was only 15 when I was first imprisoned. I was barely 18 when an Israeli interrogator forced me to spread my legs while I stood in the interrogation room, naked, before hitting my genitals. I passed out from the pain, and the resulting fall left an everlasting scar on my forehead. The interrogator mocked me afterwards, saying that I would never procreate because people like me give birth only to terrorists and murderers. A few years later, I was again in an Israeli prison, leading a hunger strike, when my first son was born. Instead of the sweets we usually distribute to celebrate such news, I handed out salt to the other prisoners. When he was barely 18, he in turn was arrested and spent 4 years in Israeli jails. Now, it's important to remember, these Israeli jails, they're built inside the Green Line, inside Israel proper, thus denying access to the families of the prisoners to be able to see their relatives. So the journey for a Palestinian in the West Bank to see a Palestinian prisoner of war in an Israeli prison inside the Green Line can take half a day. And they get there and arbitrarily say, look, sorry, you're not allowed to come in. No reason, no rhyme.
And it would take family members a few times to go there and come back without successfully meeting or seeing their imprisoned or loved ones. And I know many stories about that. I also want to say that Marwan Barghouti is from a village close to my village, Beit Rima, near Ramallah. His village is Kobar, and the Palestinians call it Chobar.
Chobar,
yeah. In our dialect or colloquial. So Marwan Barghouti, his life, I think the greatness of his life is that he's a random Palestinian. He was never an exceptional Palestinian in his, from a well-known family, or let's say a leader was born to a leader family. He was just a random Palestinian who grew up under occupation. He was born in the 60s and found his childhood under the boots of occupation, and decided to resist.
I just wanted to highlight too that he was 15 at the time, and we had on SBS, Channel 9, Channel 7, the investigation into the Aboriginal boy that was beaten, and the whole of Australia was outraged by this. And he was 15, and this is a common theme throughout it. It just happens, but yet again, because it's Israel, it's silent on the rest of the world.
So currently today there's 300 children.
As we speak,
there are 300 children under 18, between 11 and 18 years of age, in Israel, not in Palestine, in West Bank, East Jerusalem, as the world wants our two-state solution to exist.
And I want the listeners to think of their son or daughter, they're 10 or 11, and imagine, God forbid, that they will see this person taken captive by a foreign military power for no reason. It could be throwing rocks on a tank. These kids didn't actually kill anybody. These kids didn't injure anybody. Most of the cases, we're talking about throwing stones.
Well, a lot of the time, they actually haven't thrown the stones.
And
I think we can go into that a little bit later once we've finished with this, because it's something we definitely...
something, I was reading something earlier yesterday, and the article was so inflammatory to Benjamin Netanyahu and his Likudnik mates that they've declared a war against the New York Times for publishing it. It's, journalistic terrorism.
Yeah.
And they're the words they used.
They're absolutely the words they used. And to the end, and this speaks to the democracy, yeah? They're investigating now how the article got out of jail. It must have been smuggled out through his lawyers. So since the publishing of the letter, Marwan Barghouti has come out of general population. They've put him into solitary confinement, denied him access to his lawyers, denied him access to phones and contact to visits. So, I mean,
punishing the punished.
Punishing the punished. The inhumanity, I mean, in the modern democracy.
And this also proves that Israel has no friends, because a newspaper like the New York Times, with all the great services that has done to Israel during the Second Intifada and before that and after that, and I know my friend Dr. Mushir Amir, who you may, he did his PhD on the discourse of New York Times and the imbalance of coverage on the Second Intifada. And the findings, and of course this is an academic work, this is not an opinion, that it is a purely biased outlet.
It's a mouthpiece for
but
Zionism.
Nevertheless,
Stop it. Stop it, please.
The moment they actually give a bit of breeze to the other voice, the Israelis and the Zionists unleash their ugliness and campaign against them. Israel has no friends.
Just on that, and I don't want to go off track, is the New York Times printing more pieces that are more honest about Israel and Palestine?
No.
You don't think?
No.
Look,
even the fact that this got out?
Oh, mate, it's one article. It's one article, and it's big news. They knew it was going to be big news, and they would have been told you can have exclusivity to it. Do you want it, or shall we give it to the Washington Post? At the end of the day, it wasn't front page. It was hidden in the international section, page 42 or something. You had to go find the article. I mean, we found it because...
Of course, that's what
online.
you do.
That's what we looked for. We found it online. But, it was, we'll take it. We want to publish it. We know it's going to be worldwide news. We want to break the news. Marwan Barghouti, we know he's the
public figure,
But, they did us no service.
And now they're journalistic terrorists.
Yeah.
So. Okay, back to Barghouti.
Yeah. So just a couple of other things, and it's, I think, just to get an idea and context as to the scale of this issue. And Yusuf, you spoke to the fact that 800,000 males in 49 years, fully 40% of the male population has been imprisoned at some time or another. Defence for Children International, which is an NGO, found that Palestinian children in Israeli detention, 97% had no lawyer or family member present during interrogation. The interrogation's in Hebrew, so a language the kids don't even understand. No lawyer, no parent, in a language they don't understand. 75.5% were subject to physical abuse, 72.5% were denied adequate food and water, and 69.7% were strip searched. I mean, these are 12-year-olds, 13 or 14-year-olds. It just beggars belief. And top that off, this military court system ends up with a 99.1% conviction rate,
which is the world record. I don't know if there's any other country.
China.
Well done, Israel.
North Korea? No.
Well, no, everybody's guilty.
So that's nearly 100% conviction rate.
Yeah, no. Every now and again they let Bob go.
The figures actually are alarming, and it's not because we're talking about hundreds of children or tens of women or thousands of men, but it's because the continuity over 50 years. Because when you take my brother as a prisoner, my whole family will suffer. My mother, myself, his kids, my dad, our friends, and you're holding the Palestinian society hostage. You're putting the whole society behind bars, and Israel knows that very well, and they do it because they can, and they do it to break our
expecting to break our spirits, and they must know that the chains will break before our will break.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to say also that part of the statements being in Hebrew, they asked the kids who are 12 and 13 to sign something to say that either it was their friend or their father. Oh, yeah. So
to make them sign a confession.
That's exactly.
That's how you get a 99% success rate.
But then they use that confession to charge somebody else. I mean, it's barbaric.
Nasser, I want to take a break, but before that, if you want to read another excerpt from the Marwan's letter.
You just slipped one in.
Yeah, I might just because following the charge from the Israeli cabinet and Benjamin Netanyahu and his mates, Marwan Barghouti, Marwan's wife, also wrote a piece. Well, she didn't get it published, but she circulated it on Facebook. And a couple of quotes from here. It's interesting to note that not a single country on earth has accepted Israel's characterization of Marwan as a terrorist, and many have called for his release. It's also worth mentioning that international observers have considered the trial a show trial, not a political one. The Inter-Parliamentary Union dispatched a legal expert, Mr. Simon Foreman, and following his report, the key line here is that there have been numerous breaches of international law recalled in this report and make it impossible to conclude that Mr. Barghouti was given a fair trial. And the easiest way Israel can do to discredit anything is to immediately tar anyone with the brush. He's a terrorist.
Anti-Semitism.
Oh, anti-Semitic, but he's a terrorist.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you publish an article from a guy who's been convicted as a terrorist, and you are aiding and abetting in this process? So I think it's one of the things we want to speak to is during the second intifada, there was 15,000 prisoners at the time. At the moment, we're at 6,500 prisoners. There's a topic, and we should probably do a show on administrative detention, and this is where Israel can grab somebody, put them in jail, not give them access to a lawyer, not give them access to their family, not even tell them what they're charged with.
Well, they don't have one. Yeah. There's no charge yet.
There's no charge. So they're under administrative detention, and this can roll on in 6-month increments. The military prosecutor will say to the judge, it's secret, we can't tell you what, but we're obviously having to keep the state of Israel. Security concerns. We have to keep the state of Israel very...
and they keep renewing the 6-month imprisonment.
And
no
the world record, 8 years. One guy spent 8 years in jail, never got told what he was charged with. At the end of the 8 years, they went, okay, you can go home now.
16 times renewals.
16 renewals, yeah.
Are you serious?
And
8 years.
you know what, also, they're doing the same against the civil society in Jerusalem. The Orient House, Bayt al-Sharq, that was founded by Faisal al-Husseini, for example, it was closed in November 2000 till today. So we're talking about 17 years, and they keep renewing the 6-month closure order with no reason why they closed the Orient House. But until today, it's been closed for no reason.
And this is where an Israeli he shot a Palestinian that was incapacitated, and he got 18 months, and that was so terrible that they've re-looking at the trial, and he's now at home on... I mean, that's just wrong.
We should also speak, Yusuf, just very quickly before we go to our break, that Israel doesn't just use live Palestinian prisoners.
Of course, we will talk after the break about holding the bodies of dead Palestinians captive for years. And I know, and when I say years, I'm talking about more than 25 years. Some of the bodies of the martyrs were held captive, and not even giving their family the relief of burying their loved ones and knowing where to go for a prayer on Eid Day. And this is the other, this is the real face of occupation. We will definitely continue, but we will listen to a thematic song by Marcel Khalifa, the Lebanese singer. The song was written in late 80s, early 90s, in support of the Lebanese and Palestinian prisoners in South Lebanon, and it's called Shiddul Himmeh, Raise Your Spirit. So let's have a listen. You're listening to Palestine Remembered on 855 AM, and an episode purely dedicated to the Palestinian prisoners on the occasion of the Palestinian Prisoners' Day on the 17th of April. Before the break, we spoke also about the imprisonment and detention not only of prisoners but also of the bodies of martyrs. Israel has been holding hundreds of dead bodies that belongs to Palestinians as late as the late 70s, as early, I would say, since the late 70s onward, and prevented their families from having a burial according to their religion, Christian or Islamic. And the grief that you could give a father or mother for not even burying your son properly, and not feeling that, the spirit has rest in peace. And I would like to mention a campaign that started in 2010, and I was lucky to meet the founder of that campaign in Algeria in the conference that supported the Palestinian detainees. The campaign, I will say it in Arabic, الحملة الشعبية لاسترداد جثامين الشهداء, which is the national campaign to retrieve the bodies of the martyrs. You needed something like a civil society campaign to basically do something and put pressure on Israel and talk to international media with also the Palestinian Authority. But and Israel is using that again as another.
They use it as a tool of leverage over the family. It's a function of control. Keep your heads clean. We'll give you your son's body back. And interestingly, Yusuf, as you know, in that same report, there's bodies that they've lost. They're telling parents, your son died. He died 12 years ago, and in fact, we don't know where his body is.
Yep.
It's not just we're denying you the body now. Our record keeping has lost him. Yep.
The Palestinians will never be broken.
Yeah.
Our determination will be even stronger. The more they go in their ugliness, in their brutality, the stronger we become, and the more determined we are towards our freedom one day and our independence. I also want to ask you, Nasser, about the demands of the prisoners, the reason why they held or they are in the middle of their hunger strike now. We're talking about 5th day today. What are their demands?
We just need to tell everybody that these are the true demands. They are not, because people may be expecting some outrageous demands.
Yeah.
These are
Simple.
pretty simple.
Well, we're not asking for Cocoa Pops. These are simple demands.
And it should go without mentioning. But however, let's see what their demands are.
So we'll put a link onto in the podcast so our listeners can download them. But I'll just go very, very high level here. You know what? Installation of a public phone in each section of a prison. Access to family visits, regular visits, every 2 weeks without cancellation or interference. And we talked about that as an element of control, that families are denied access at the very last minute after undergoing 4 or 5 hours worth of travel and searches, etc. The children and grandchildren under the age of 16 are allowed visitation at each visit. Medical care, ending the policy of medical neglect. As we know, many Palestinians are released from Israeli detention with only weeks to go because they've had cancer and had poor treatment, etc. That surgical procedures are received quickly and without delay. No transfer of the cost of treatment to prisoners and their families. So when a prisoner is sick and the good Israeli prison heals them, that bill is then sent to their family.
Can I also, on this point, I don't want to interrupt you, but
But you will.
But I am. When the terrorist, the settler Jewish terrorist, set fire the family in one of the villages, and Israel took credit that they took the son who was suffering from severe burns and treated the son in Israel's hospital. And of course, there was so much media, but nevertheless, they sent the invoice to the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
So on this particular point.
Yeah. Well, so you recall, Yusuf, that his father, mother, and younger brother were killed in that episode.
Yeah.
And sadly, his grandfather just recently passed. But that bill was sent to the PA. Yeah. So humane treatment of prisoners during transportation and movement. So when prisoners are moved from prison to another, sometimes this can take 15 or 16 hours. They're locked in the back of, quintessentially a divvy van in, upwards of 40 to 50 degree heat with no air conditioning, no water, no bathroom breaks.
Or they're left out in the sun.
Or they're left in the sun. Installation of cooling systems in the in a couple of prisons, especially Megiddo and Gilboa. Reform kitchens for all prisoners and put them under the supervision of Palestinian prisoners. Introduction of books. Isn't that sickening? Ending the policy of solitary confinement. Ending the policy of administrative detention. And remember, this is where...
Renewable 6 months.
Yeah, that people just get put into jail for 6 months. Indefinitely, with no trial, no lawyer, no notice as to what they've been charged with. Introduce access to education and allow prisons to provide for high school examinations. I mean, the fact that we need to ask for these basic things, but also for our kids to be able to do their, high school exams while they're in prison.
I also want to give credit to the pioneers of human rights advocates in Israel, particularly Vanessa Langer. She was the only one in the whole of Israel advocating for human treatment of the Palestinian prisoners in the 70s. She wrote a book that's really an inside story of the first 10 years of occupation of West Bank. And the book is called In My Own Eyes by Vanessa Langer. And I remember that the book made it to Arabic media. This is my earliest memories of basically resistance, because the Syrians have done a great job turning it into 30 episodes.
Yeah, no, she's a wonderful woman.
We'll put the link down as well.
Yeah. So, and just while we talk about the 99% conviction rate of Palestinians, 14 years ago, Rachel Corrie, an American activist, was run over in a high-vis vest in a Caterpillar. She was protecting the home of a Palestinian in Gaza, and she was run over by a Caterpillar bulldozer. 14 years later, the trial's still going.
They're still unsure whether
who the driver was and whether or not he saw her in a high-vis vest. Just this week, Bassem Abu Rahma, who in April of 2009, 8 years ago, he was shot in the chest with a high-speed tear gas canister. It killed him. The Israeli courts have said there's going to be no further movement in the prosecution. Sadly, They say that there was an incomplete investigation at the time with no clear evidence. The file that they had was stolen, and based on the fact that no clear investigation was done and that the file has been stolen, there's going to be no prosecution, even though there's video of the guy doing it.
Just on that too, they actually admitted fault, but they actually won't go any further than that. They said, yes, it was our fault, but that's it, because everything's been stolen.
I also want to
just
mention...
like they're stealing Palestinian land.
I want to mention Iman Alhams, the 7-year-old Palestinian schoolgirl on her way to school who was shot dead by Israeli soldiers in Gaza before they pull out in 2005. And not only she was shot, killed, the soldier approached her dead body and emptied his magazine, more than 35 bullets.
To confirm the kill.
Into the dead body of a 7-year-old Palestinian schoolgirl.
And what happened?
And what happened? Well, still open-ended. And I guess the guy, of course, is released. But no, they didn't see any strong evidence that he should be convicted. And in solidarity and support of the prisoners, Fatah Melbourne is organizing an awareness event, on the 30th of April. That's the coming Sunday, at 3 o'clock at the Trades Hall for the prisoners, where we play videos and recite poetry. So if you want to join us, you can text us on 0437 990 415, 0437 990 415 to reserve your seat.
And we'll put the details on the podcast as well.
On the podcast. And also, as a symbolic move, some Australians have decided to have a symbolic hunger strike 1 day per week until their demands are met. Personally, I will be fasting every Tuesday until they end their hunger strike.
Me too.
And I guess with this we come to the end of this week's episode that was dedicated to our Palestinian prisoners behind Israeli bars. And we will definitely revisit this important topic because the hunger strike is still on. And until they meet their demands, hopefully we will be coming back with more figures and statistics and interviews. So until then, have a great time and salam.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.